Welcome to Apprentice Marks. My name's John. In this video, we're making end tables. Truth be told, I have no idea how to make end tables. Let's get started.
The bulk of the materials for this project came from a couple of old hardwood skids that I got when I ordered some stuff from the Home Depot. I was renovating my garage and I ordered some plywood and some insulation and a bunch of other crap, and it all came on these skids. I decided to save them to see if I could make something useful out of them. I started off by trying to pull the boards off, but that was a giant pain in the ass. I was cracking a lot of the material and ruining it, so I got out the skill saw and gave it a go with that. Once all the material was separated, I spent a lot of time at the planer and the jointer, getting square edges and getting everything to uniform thickness. Now, you might notice that I really only recovered the deck boards from the hardwood pallets that I was pulling apart. I wanted to grab the stringers as well because they're great big hefty pieces of oak, and I thought that they'd make great table legs, but the deck boards were affixed to the stringers with some great big hefty iron nails that kept breaking all the wood and getting in the way, and I just wasn't having any luck removing them easily. So I basically just ended up using the deck boards for most of this project. With the joining and planing done, I took the boards and sliced them into thin strips, and then I cut those strips to length. All of these strips were glued up into a laminate that forms the tops of the tables. So in this shot you can see me doing half of one table. It's about 12 inches wide. The final tables are about 24 inches by 24 inches. The reason I did them to 12 inches was so that I could take these sub-panels and run them through my planer in order to get them nice and smooth. And then I was able to joint them, so I had a nice line to glue on. And there you can see the final tabletop come together. So it's not actually a full 24 by 24, it's actually something like 22 by 22 because I end up putting about a 1-inch strip of hard maple around the edge. And once the glue was totally cured, I could cut each of the panels to their final dimensions. Now I grabbed some scrap hard maple that I had lying around and I cut some strips. And these strips got mitered corners and then were glued and tacked to the sides of the tabletops. The idea here is just to give them some kind of a hard edge, just to make sure that if someone bumps up against them or slams into them or whatever, that they're not going to get all dented and screwed up. The contrast of the woods also looks kind of nice, and that's sort of the theme, I guess. I don't really know enough about furniture making to start speaking in themes and theories and such like that, but the point of the laminate tabletops was to show off all of the contrasting colors of the different types of wood that they were made up of. Once they were glued up, the tables were sanded down through 120 to 200 grit, and then I think finished with some 000 steel wool. Like I said earlier, the intent of this project was originally to get all of the pieces of the tables out of the skids. When that didn't work out, I reached for some of this hard maple that I had up on my shelf. I was waiting for a good excuse to break it out, and I figured the first time I tried building furniture was as good as any. The table legs are about 2 inches square, and they're around 32 inches long, which is tall for an end table, but it suits the dimension of the furniture that they're going to sit beside. Now I want to do mortise and tenon joinery on this project, which I'd never tried before. I started off by cutting my mortises on the router table. You'll see that using the router to cut the mortises leaves a rounded end, so I had to go back in with a chisel and square off the end. I was a little sloppy here, and my work kind of led to some of the sloppier joinery on the project. With the legs chiseled, I could go ahead and cut the aprons. Once again, these were cut out of the deck boards that I retrieved from the pallets. And I'm cutting them to size, and then I'm cutting the tenon that sits into the mortise that we cut previously. And then finally you see me cutting a slot that'll be used to clip the tabletop to the table frame later on. The glue up of the table frames was pretty straightforward. I just kind of tried to work quick while also moving the camera and making sure that everything was square. I started by gluing an apron between 4 sets of 2 legs. Once the glue set up on these pieces, I could come back and attach pairs of them together by adding another 2 aprons between them. And so here you see me attaching, I guess it could be called like the front apron to some of the sides, and we've got a square. I used some clamps here just to set it up once I knew that I had something square on the bench. Then I went back to more of the slat that I got off of the pallets, and I cut it into small pieces, and I mitered the sides, and I'm turning these into corner blocks. These will be glued and tacked into place to make sure that the corners stay square and rigid and don't rack if somebody twists the frame of the table. So with the frames all done, I laid the tables out, and then I could set the frame on top, and then I go around with a ruler and just make sure that it's roughly centered inside of the tabletop. Now I got these little clips, they're kind of cool. I got them in a pack of like 20 off of Amazon for like $5. Basically they're like a little Z shape, and they screw into the tabletop and they hook into the groove that I cut into the aprons of the table. And the idea there is that the tabletop is held to the table frame, but if the wood expands and contracts over time, those clips can slide in the groove without forcing the table to crack to relieve the pressure. The finish on these was really straightforward. Like I said, the whole goal of the project was to get those contrasting woods in the top, so I decided to just go with polyurethane for the finish. I didn't bother with staining or anything because I didn't want to hide any of those colors. I ended up putting 2 coats of poly on the frames of the table and 3 coat on the top. And in between each coat, I sanded down with 000 steel wool just to get out any bubbles or scratches or anything like that. After letting the finish cure for a couple of days, I brought the tables into the living room where the cats started enjoying them immediately. All in all, I'm really happy with the way these turned out. I mean, the first pieces of real furniture that I built, and they ended up looking great. Thanks for watching.